Welcome to Mishna, study Masechet Rosh Hashanah. It's a new Masechet. We're going to be speaking mostly about Rosh Hashanah as we know it today, and the laws that apply to Rosh Hashanah. It really mainly focuses around how we go ahead and are Mekadesh the Chodesh, how we sanctify the month, right? And sanctify Rosh Hashanah, right? So we know that we didn't always have a set calendar, and we needed to have witnesses come and testify saying they saw the new moon, and this would, when they come to the Beit Din, they would go ahead and declare this month, and at this point, this is Rosh Chodesh. The same thing would apply for Rosh Hashanah as well, once a year. Now, the laws of Rosh Hashanah, as we mentioned, really have a lot to do with Kiddush HaChodesh, and it also has the main mitzvah is Giat Shofar, or really the Shmoa, called Shofar, hearing the Shofar. We're going to speak about those laws towards the end of the Masechet. So we're going to open up and jump into this first Mishnah. And ironically, we start off with, there are 4 New Years in a year, right? There are 4 quote-unquote New Years in a year. There are 4 times we have and there's halachic ramifications for each one. Be'ahad b'Nisan. Right. Interestingly, we open up with the first of Nisan. We know the Jewish year starts in Nisan. The pasuk says, right, Rishon hu lachem lechodshei Hashanah. And what is the first of Nisan? It's Rosh Hashanah lemelachim v'regalim. Right. The first of Nisan is Rosh Hashanah for kings and for the regalim. The regalim are the holidays, the mu'adim. So what does this mean? And it's for the kings. So meaning Malchei Yisrael. First of all, a Jewish king. Once the first of Nisan rolls in, so it's going to be the next year, right? So imagine he started ruling. He became, king in Heshvan. Now, a few months later, Nisan comes in, the first of Nisan. We say this is the second year of his reign, right? Because the first of Nisan passed. That's the cutoff time for counting the the new year for the kings. What's the halachic ramification for something like this? Well, when we write shtarot, when we write contracts, a lot of times we'd write a contract to the to the year of so and so king. All right. So imagine in writing, the 3rd year of King Herod. Right. So you need to know when that was. What year was it? It's important to know what year the contract was, and that also has its own implications. So that's the first. Also for regalim. What's the implication? What's the halachic ramification when it comes to the holidays? Why do we care that it's Rosh Hashanah? It's the new year for the holidays. What does that mean? So we have in general a principle. If a person makes a vow to bring a korban, right? How long does he have in order to fulfill this mitzvah? So if 3 regalim pass, he violates a lo ta'aseh, right? The pasuk says lo te'achar deshalemo. You shall not delay to pay your vows. And you're only going to be over on a lo ta'aseh once 3 regalim pass. And Rabbi Shimon says that the first one that needs to pass is you have to start with Chag HaMatzot, right? The holiday of Pesach. That's to be the first one. So Pesach, Shavuot, then Sukkot, and then you violate the lo ta'aseh. By the way, it's not halacha, right? Halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon. Rambam's not posted like Rabbi Shimon, and rather, if any 3 pass in any order, you're going to violate the lo ta'aseh. But I would just point out that once the first regel passes, he already violates the mitzvah ta'aseh. Right? There's a separate mitzvah ta'aseh to bring your korban the first time, the first holiday. Right? The first time when you come, and that's 3 times a year, right? That's when you have to bring your korban. Okay, that's the first one. That's a Had Nisan. What's the second Rosh Hashanah? That's a Had Be'elul, the first of Elul, Rosh Hashanah Ma'aser Behema. Right, so this is the Rosh Hashanah for tithing your animals, right? 1 out of every 10 animals that are born, you have to give as Ma'aser. Give that to the Kohen. And we separate, right? We separate these each year. And you're not allowed to separate from 1 year on to the next, right? Once 1 year passes, before the first of Elul is part of 1 year, after the first of Elul is part of the next year, and you have to go ahead and separate them each accordingly. Okay, that's according to Tanakama. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Behad b'Tishri, right? The first of Tishri, that's when it happens, right? Not on Elul. Now, Tanakama continues. Behad b'Tishri, the first of Tishri, is Rosh Hashanah l'shanim, l'shmitim, v'layovlot, v'laniti'ah, v'layirakot. Right, so there's multiple ramifications over here. It's Rosh Hashanah for the years, right? Meaning what? When we're counting the years, how many years, in the world in existence, right? 5760. 5761. And we're counting, that goes according to, when do we count that? We change that every Rosh Hashanah in Tishri. That's right. That's the Shanim. La Shemitim, right? The Shemitah year. When does the Shemitah year start? It doesn't start in the first of Elul. It doesn't start the first of Nisan. It starts the first of Tishri. La Yovlot, right? The Yovel, the 50th year, also starts on. Now over here, it's interesting. It really starts on the 10th of Tishri, on Yom Kippur, right? We know this. The pasuk says, right? B'Yom Kippurim ta'aviru shofar b'chol artzechem. But from Rosh Hashanah, from the first of Tishri, you have to also sanctify it, and you have to let stop working your slaves, right, from the first of Tishri. L'neti'ah and l'yerakot. Neti'ah is, when it comes to the laws of Orla, we know shalosh shanim yeh lachem ararim lo ya'achel. You're not allowed to eat the first, if you plant a new tree, you're not allowed to eat from its fruits for the first 3 years. Now, when do we start counting that first year from? So anything that caught ground, if you planted anything 44 days, we spoke about this in Masechet Shavi'it, 44 days before Rosh Hashanah, then we say, okay, that's considered a complete year. Once Rosh Hashanah passes, that's already in its second year, right? So you have to wait 3 years. So as long as you planted it before Tu B'Av, right, Tet Vav Av, right, planted it on the 15th of Av, you planted on the 10th of Av, that's enough. Right, that's enough to be considered once Rosh Hashanah comes. Now it's its second year. The next Rosh Hashanah is its third year, but you're not allowed to eat to it. You're not allowed to eat it, right immediately after Rosh Hashanah. You have to actually wait till Tu B'Shvat. So we'll see in our Mishna. So that's for Nitiyah. And La Yerakot. Yerakot, we know that all Yerakot, by the way, the same thing would apply not just to Orla, also apply for Neta Reva'i, right, the 4th year as well. Right, the 4th year fruits, you're only allowed to eat them in Yerushalayim. Right, so that would apply as well. What's Yerakot? La Yerakot. So when it comes to vegetables, we know that the Ma'asrot apply, right? So when's the cutoff for vegetables? That goes according to the first of Rosh Hashanah, right? Anything that's picked before Rosh Hashanah is part of the previous year. Anything after Rosh Hashanah is part of the following year, right? There's also, again, you're not allowed to separate Ma'asrot from one year into the next, but there's also different years have different Ma'asrot. Remember, the first and second year, you're going to have to give Ma'aser Sheni. The third year, you have to give Ma'aser Ani, right? So it really depends when this kicks in. That's the third one. Now, the last one is Be'ahad B'Shvat, the first of Shevat, Rosh Hashanah La'ilan. It's the Rosh Hashanah for an Ilan, right? For trees, and we know trees, any fruit that you see the fruit, it started to bud, form a fruit before the first of Shevat. It's part of the previous year. After the first of Shevat is part of the following year. The 15th of Shevat, which ends up being, as we know, Tu B'Shvat. Right, Tu B'Shvat is the Rosh Hashanah for the trees. And what's the ramification over here? That any fruit that that forms before Tu B'Shvat is part of the previous year. After Tu B'Shvat is part of the following year. Ironically, the difference between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel are 2 weeks in the middle of the winter, in the middle of January usually, right? You're not probably not having many fruits over here actually taking effect. But as we mentioned, that's it goes according to this. And also, when does the Orla Neta Reva'i cycle end? Right, on Tu B'Shvat. On Tu B'Shvat, you're allowed to go ahead and already eat from these fruits. And halacha, of course, like Bet Shammai. And these are the 4 New Years, as we open Masechet Rosh Hashanah, that we have in the Jewish calendar.